Good evening. This is America's Mayor Live, back at our usual studio here in New York, and we'll be on the road very soon again. Next stop, Florida. We're picking up, ready to go. As you know, I think you know, I'm voting in Florida. My vote count for the first time in a long time. I think it might count in New York. We'll discuss that later with the rally and the reception, which was remarkable. Remarkable. I mean, even well, I don't know. I don't watch enough of the communist coverage to know how they covered it. But if you covered that rally as anything but a totally exceptional reception for him, and I might say for me, uh, then you're a big lie. Of course, they didn't cover that about me, but I'm used to that. They lie about me. I can't think of a correct article about me in a long time, even in the Wall Street Journal and somewhat New York Post. Unbelievable. This amount of censorship in this country is completely unbelievable. Uh, one of the reasons I went yesterday is, and I came up from Florida to do it, um, is because it really was in my hometown, or one of my hometowns. I have three hometowns. I grew up for the first 7 years of my life in Brooklyn, New York. Grew up for the next 7 years of my life, which takes you from 7 to about 13 or 14, in Garden City South. And then my parents moved, and I lived in North Belmore, but on and off, because that's when I went to college and law school. But so you could say that was 7 years until I was 21. This arena, this arena, which used to be called the Long Island Coliseum, a lot of names, now the Nassau Coliseum, was built. And when the original one was built, they took away my baseball field, my Little League field. They've since been moved, but it's only a mile away from my Little League field, about 2 miles away from where I live. So I feel like, he was in my neighborhood. I had to go. I also, uh, I feel protective. The second attempt on his life really got to me. I went to him about a year ago, as I've told you before, somewhat at the urging of Bernie Kerik, a few other people, and on my own as well, because we were beginning to think they have tried everything, it's failing, and I don't know. This deep state thing is very deep, very crooked, very dishonest, extraordinarily amoral people. And Bernie posed a question to me and a few others, which was, um, are they capable of it? They've done everything else. This is when his indictments took place and he got more popular, which had to frustrate the hell out of them. They figured that was going to end it. There's only one thing left to do, he said. And are they capable of it? I said, yeah, they sure as hell are capable of it. My goodness. I mean, they don't care how many soldiers they get killed. They got 1 million people in Ukraine and Russia killed. They get fentanyl coming into the country. You can't figure out you've quadrupled the number of people dying of drugs because you opened the border. They're attributed to you. I mean, the parents of the 13 who died in Afghanistan directly say they attribute it to Harris and Biden. And I go on and on. The Biden crime family was engaged in doing business with our worst enemies. They didn't just take money from countries; they took money from China and Russia. They were in business with the top spy in China. They were in business with one of the top operatives in China, who's sitting at the bottom of the Yangtze River. The guy employing them in Ukraine is suspected of murder. Well, in any event, I don't know if it's all just a coincidence, or there's somebody out there. It may not be them. I mean, there are other people with motives. Iran. Look what Iran is doing. Iran is supporting the Biden-Harris campaign. in a much more direct way than anybody's ever supported a campaign. The whole Russia thing was untrue, but nobody cares because the Bidens can do anything. Harris can do anything. Anything. Can they do murder? I'm not going to say they can't. I'm not going to say they can't. All I can tell you is the first assassination attempt, the government of the Biden regime, who runs the Secret Service, make no mistake about it, Biden runs the Secret Service. They covered up the drugs in the White House. They tried to cover up Hunter's gun crime. They bailed Biden out of his son using a credit card with a prostitute that he spilled his guts to. I've got the tape recording with the prostitute. The Secret Service has been covering up his shit for a long time. And then the first assassination attempt was given to a federal agency to investigate. The federal agency, just in the last two elections, the election almost 8 years ago, they tried to frame him. And then they carried it on for 3 more years. And then in the second election, they covered up the hard drive, the FBI. I mean, they've been after him. They tried to get him convicted and destroyed over a crime he didn't commit. And they hid dramatic exculpatory evidence that would have freed him of any kind of impeachment and would have elected him if the American people knew it. The truth. And they let the lie stand. And you want to say that the American people were defrauded in electing Biden? You don't have to get to the stealing of the votes. The FBI did it in holding back the hard drive, which they had validated 8 months before I produced it. And please, I produced it with Bob Costello. Bob really, I think, enjoyed and deserved being called out at that event last night. Bob lives in Nassau County, has, all during the time he was an assistant U.S. attorney. But Bob is the one who first called my attention to the letter from John MacIsaacs. And not only just did that, I mean, he's worked hand in glove with me on pulling it out and getting it out and validating it. And oh my goodness. And the guy has sacrificed a lot to do it because he's a patriot and a hell of a tough guy, good guy. So it was nice to be an opportunity to say something about him because he deserves great credit for this. And the New York Post deserves credit. But we deserve more credit because we had to talk them into publishing it. And they wouldn't have had it but for us. But they're not grateful. They're not. They cover me like I'm a criminal of some kind. Because the Murdochs turned on Trump. You can see Fox. Fox is not what it used to be. I mean, those people were afraid to talk to me. Courage, real courage, is in very short supply. Well, this case where everything was done wrong, we got a new massive contradiction. I'm talking about the first one, the first attempt. The second one will turn out the same way. This guy, Crooks, is the only guy, 20 years old, doesn't have a social profile. You think maybe something happened to it? I'm so cynical. Isn't it terrible? Gosh almighty. I'm such a cynical, just so contrary. Yeah, my God. Now we got a major contradiction. Here's the contradiction. It's real simple. When the head of the Secret Service, or the new head, I keep losing track, Ronald Rowe testified. He testified under oath that it was his understanding that the locals had a plan, and that they were going to secure the building that particular building Remember the first lying answer the Secret Service gave to why they didn't have an agent up there? It was a thatched roof, as if the FBI, as if the Secret Service doesn't have people that can manage a thatched roof, which I didn't know whether it was a thatched roof or not. And I said to myself, what bullshit. Secret Service, that if the guy could manage the thatched roof, I imagine the Secret Service has some guy that has at least a little athletic ability and would be able to do it. It sounded like a complete cover-up answer to an enormously skilled prosecutor. And it began the whole damn thing. And then when I found out he was put on they were alerted that there was a suspicious guy there, and they never went out of their way to find the guy or question him. And they went ahead with the event without doing that. That violates every protocol that I know. Now, wait a second. I want to tell you something. I'm not just some casual observer. I got Hinckley arrested with Judge Webster. I oversaw the Hinckley case. I wrote up recommendations to improve security as a result of that for my hero, Ronald Reagan. I was responsible with my police commissioners for the security of Bill Clinton and George Bush, the second, when they came to New York, which was, particularly in the case of Clinton, very often. And I was a micromanager, I don't mind telling you, particularly of policing, because I knew a lot about it. That was my background, and I was damn good at it. And everything I have heard in sequence, it's like one massive mistake after not covering the building immediately, within minutes of it's happening. I'll tell you the first one, when they put his head up. What, do you want to get him killed? I was saying, cover him, damn it, cover him. I'm yelling to the cover him. Now, I saw it on a tape a little while later. Well, we've seen it in the car, Ted, because we were at an Italian restaurant, and we were driving back to New York, and then we put it on in the car. And the minute I saw the head come up, I said, "What the hell are you doing?" Yeah, good. Here's the target. Blow his head off. You missed the first time. See if you can get him now. But you didn't know at this point whether there were one or more than one, and if the guy really was incapacitated. The idea is to take him up with him covered. That's the idea that they'll take a bullet for him. Yeah, they'll take a bullet for Hunter, but not for Trump. I mean, they had agents around him who were 4'2". Yeah, you see the picture. That head shouldn't be showing. I know he wanted to do that, but even before he knew that his head was exposed, they had it exposed. It was only a teeny bit later when he realized it, and he did the fight, which I got to think is one of the great moments in presidential history. I mean, an unbelievable display of innate courage, real courage, under fire. You know, is supposed to be covered. You know that? Why isn't it? On purpose, or or was it a little more subtle? And some people say that a lot of them on his detail weren't even Secret Service trained. They were Homeland Security sent over to Secret Service. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know what's true. I do know it's true. They didn't cover the most obvious place to shoot at him, which is completely unexplainable. And they let the event go ahead when there was an outstanding, suspicious creature there reported to them that they did nothing about. Both of those things would suggest two things. One of two things. The most incompetent presidential candidate coverage ever in our history. Or you didn't care whether he got killed or not. And maybe when they get him in areas where they have reports of suspicious people. That's what they do. Because this guy, they could have known about for weeks. He was there. Now, they say under oath that the locals were going to take care of it. The locals en masse say that on July 11th, the Secret Service assured them that they would cover the building. Not just one, but any number of Butler County law enforcement officials. I'll read it to you. This is a letter from Grassley to the director of the Biden Secret Service, the Biden-Harris Secret Service, Ronald Rowe. Butler County law enforcement officials stated that at separate times during the walkthrough, this was on July 11th, when the walkthrough took place, they reiterated their concerns to the agents and counter sniper about securing the AGR complex buildings. The agents responded, "We will take care of it." A county law enforcement official said they told the Secret Service counter sniper that they didn't have the manpower to cover the AGR complex buildings and asked that the whole area be locked down. Wasn't. Butler County District Attorney Rich Goldinger and others insisted that the Secret Service had been informed that local police lacked the manpower to secure the buildings. Grassley has now demanded that Rowe confirm whether these claims are true, in which case he committed perjury, or false. And if he's lying and covering that up, then it just moves you even more toward maybe there was something deliberate about this. Because how many things can go wrong? I mean, are they that unprofessional? In the second case, we once again have the FBI investigating a man who they've tried to destroy for the last 8 years, 7 years. I mean, it's one attempt after another to destroy him. And we're supposed to trust their investigation. DeSantis has stepped forward and has said that the investigation should be done by the Florida law enforcement. First of all, normally it would be given for prosecution of Florida because if it develops the way it looks like it's going to develop, the federal government can only prosecute him for a minor crime. It is not a federal crime to kill or attempt to kill a presidential candidate. Only time it becomes a federal crime if he's president-elect. If that were done after the election and he had been elected, but not yet installed as president, then it would be a federal crime. But he is now not a federal official or federal official designate. And therefore, the federal statutes involving murdering a president or a president-elect don't apply. There is no federal jurisdiction. All they can do is a gun charge, which carries 5 years in prison. You know what the Florida statute carries? Life in prison. Which do you think he deserves? And I will tell you, normally, almost always, when law enforcement used to be legitimate, the decision is made in favor of the jurisdiction with a heavier penalty when there's a serious crime involved. The only other thing it might be if there's a place where there's an easier statute to use. The federal government often will be able to convince a state to give them because of RICO or something like that. Here, that doesn't exist. The best place to prosecute him is in Florida. The best place that the government, considered as a whole, the people, are going to get the fairest trial is in Florida. And a penalty commensurate with the crime that's alleged has to be proved or proven. DeSantis held a press conference today in which he laid that out really very, very well. DeSantis, you should know, is a lawyer and whatever else you think of him because he opposed Trump, a very, very smart guy. and a very tough guy. He's not Garland. Garland having any part of prosecuting a case about a guy that he's tried to frame over and over and over again, and selected a hitman, Smith, who has a history of framing politicians to prosecute them, and is only getting away with it because of the suck-up media? You know, a couple of hours after this happened, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna received a very serious threat, and I think it was just a few hours after, and a day or two after her opponent said that she was a threat to democracy, which maybe, what they use this word, dog whistle, the Democrats, they love this dog whistle thing. You know, Trump was dog whistling to have an insurrection. I don't know what the hell he dog whistled, since he told them to go peacefully and politically. But they seem to think that, you know, these things can be incited by words. Well, who has had more terrible words said about him by Harris, Biden, Pelosi than Trump? So, I mean, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. They've said much more direct things that would lead to Hitler. How many people believe Hitler should have been killed? It would have been the better good. You make a pretty strong argument that he had killed him in 29, 30, 31. At least 12 million people be alive that would have had a life. So we say somebody's a threat to democracy. That may be the dog whistle for the whole crew that's out there of whooples, like this guy. This guy's some kind of a nut job. Reminds me a bit of Lee Harvey Oswald, in the sense that he was out of the country before it happens. He's got himself completely wound up in a ball here over Ukraine. And then he keeps hearing that Trump is going to take away democracy. He's going to be a Hitler. He's going to persecute people. And then the minute they say it about this congresswoman who's very close to him and a very big supporter of his, she gets a threat to kill her. Now, her opponent doxed her, put out how to get in touch with her, Whitney Fox, and accused her of being a threat to democracy. I don't know how this woman's a threat to democracy. I mean, she's a congresswoman, and a very fine one, actually. Happens to, unfortunately for her and for her life, she's close to Trump. But this happens within a couple hours. Nobody reports this. It kind of suggests, that you got to investigate. Good catch, Rudy. You've got to investigate this. There's a difference between floating conspiracy theories and laying out reasonable hypotheses as to how the dots connect. If you can't do that, you can't solve crimes. That's how we solve crimes. We lay out hypotheticals, and then we try to prove them. And in our failure to prove them, we can sometimes show people are innocent. We'll be right back. Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter
3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory, or not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're gonna want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you with America's Mayor Live. She's back. He's back. Hillary, just when you thought, it's like the horror movie. Just when you thought you killed the monster, the hand comes up again. There she is, trying to get Trump killed. Trump's a threat. Trump's a threat. Trump's a threat. She had some choice words after the second assassination attempt. Maybe she's working for a third one. I did, absentmindedly sort of just suggest that this could be an Epstein kind of situation, this assassination thing. That they encouraged Epstein to commit suicide, and they made it possible for him to do it. So there'd be no one person involved. I don't know, sitting there like that. Only thing is, red grapes, green grapes, sour grapes. It's too not. She looks too good in this. Come on, Ted. She never looked that good. Man. I mean, she's one mean person. She now wants to have people who spread propaganda criminally prosecuted. She should just shut her mouth about criminal prosecution. I mean, she got away with murder. We don't know that. We don't know if she got away with murder. She got away with destroying 33,000 emails, crashing up a hard drive, perjuring herself about 20 times. And who knows how much money they took into that phony Clinton Foundation. Big money, including from Russia, and sent them material for making nuclear arms. That's pretty good, getting away with that. I mean, sometimes when you say getting away with murder, you mean a colloquial, not necessarily murder, but something similar to it, like putting your country in jeopardy by making sure that Russia gets a substantial amount of nuclear material, that gets through, or taking a lot of. The biggest contributor to the so-called Clinton Foundation was Ukraine. That's kind of strange, right? Ukraine's not that rich a country. It is one of the most corrupt countries in the world, always has been for quite some time, since it became free. People forget that when they analyze the huge amount of money that's gone there and the accountability or lack thereof, right? So I would say that this is kind of scary that she's out there kind of pumping up people about what a terrible person Trump is. Who knows? One of those people might make an attempt on his life. I'm sure she would be so unhappy if that happened. You kind of think maybe that the worst thing that Harris and Biden did here is they had the border open. Well, that's pretty damn bad. We're not a country, we don't have a border. I mean, they have destroyed any number of our constitutional rights, which we've gone over many times. But they're also trying to destroy our culture. They're trying to destroy our culture by letting in a short period of time more people than ever came in. I'm not sure this many people came in of all those European migrations. And if they did, they came in over 40 or 50 years. And they assimilated. They assimilated into us. These people are trying to change us into them. That means America's gone. It's our values and institutions that have to prevail. Abraham Lincoln was asked what makes an American, and he said the best American is the one who believes in the values of America the most, the critical values of our founding fathers. We can't even mention our founding fathers anymore. They were racist. Like hell, they were racist. First of all, half of them were abolitionists, and almost all of them saw the evil of slavery. Some thought we could get out of it right away, and some thought we had to do it gradually. And how about the unbelievable amount of credit that whites should get for dying to free blacks? How about 320,000 of them? They fought a war to end slavery. And the people from New York and Pennsylvania and New Hampshire and whatever, who they want to pay reparations, their children died to free black people. You ever hear Black Lives Matter talk about that, or Cackling Kamala, or Tampon Tim? No, because they hate America. Biden started about a year and a half ago something called CBP-1. Now, this is a complete con job. CBP-1 was supposed to limit the number of people who came into this country. They would apply on an app, and it would give us time to vet them or whatever the hell we were going to do. Well, we know about 130,000 of them now have come in. They got no vetting. There's no record if they're being vetted. Nobody checked them. And some of them come from countries where we can't check, like Venezuela will not respond to any of our requests for information. A lot of people from China came in. China won't cooperate with us. These people sort of come in on a special invitation from Biden and the border czar. Well, it turns out that a large number of them are really dangerous people. 3 turned out to be Kazakhstan terrorists on the terrorist watch list. We didn't find that out until 9 months later, but the special Biden-Harris program brought them in without any checking. We have more terrorists now in this country than ever before in our history, according to the director of the FBI. I bet you most of them came in on this program, the special Biden-Harris, you can avoid all checking program, CBP-1. Luis Miguel Casadilla Rojas came in this way. Well, you say, who is Luis Miguel Casadilla Rojas? Oh, he's from Venezuela. He is a very high-ranking member of Tren de Aragua, which is the fastest-growing organized crime group I've ever seen in America. I mean, the mafia grew in slow motion compared to them. It took 30 years for the mafia to get where they got in 3, largely because the Biden-Harris administration expedited their delivery to the United States from Venezuela. When Trump says that Maduro emptied his jails and prisons, he's not just... Tren de Aragua is a Venezuelan prison gang. It is the biggest organized crime group in Venezuela. It has infiltrated Colombia, and it's become one of the biggest in Colombia. I think its head is in jail in Colombia now. And it is represented now already very, very substantially in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, including in New York, a migrant group that steals. You hold this out, they come along on a bicycle and take it away from you and bang you in the head. They even shoot you after they take it, because they want to not only take it and make money on it, and they take hundreds and thousands of them. They want to scare the hell out of you in order to make you submit. They are very, very strongly populate the Bronx, but they also are very much represented in Chicago and in Los Angeles and in Denver, Colorado, on special invitation of Governor Feliz Navidad. I don't know his real name because I remember his unbelievable bravura performance as an asshole. Would you like to watch it? Ted will get it ready for you. This is the guy who invited these animals to Colorado. And they all came to Denver. Denver has a larger number of illegal aliens than New York per capita. Their crime is
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad.
That's the guy who invited in all the Venezuelan criminals who are destroying Denver. And then they moved out to a suburb called Aurora that is not a sanctuary city. The mayor of Denver is an idiot like him. He wants them there. He likes having the criminals there. I don't know, maybe it makes him feel comfortable. They don't have enough crimes in Denver. So they moved out to Aurora, and they've taken over Aurora. When this was first raised, like the Springfield thing, oh my God, Trump is making it up. Trump is making it up. Now, every day, new crimes get revealed. They have taken over 4 or 5 housing complexes. This guy has this guy was part of he put part of his gang in Aurora, and he was arrested for attempted murder in July. He's been arrested about 2 or 3 times and let out. And they never turn him over to the immigration authorities because that idiot you saw singing, he prohibits them from turning criminals over to the immigration service. Remember, Kamala Harris is in favor of doing away with ICE and doing away with criminalizing illegal immigration. She's also in favor, and this she hasn't changed her mind about, a path to citizenship for people like this. And she also thinks if they go to prison, you should pay for their transgender surgery. You should, if Luis Miguel Calzadilla Rojas, who's been arrested 4 times in his year and a half in America, ends up in prison finally, and he decides he wants to become a girl. You got to pay for it, according to her. And Tampon Tim. I guess Tim will give him tampons as well. He also is one of 10 members of the violent Venezuelan street gang that was involved in another January 3rd shooting right in front of the probation office. And they shot, and I don't know if they killed or seriously wounded a probation officer. Seriously wounded. He's a documented high-level member of Trans de Aragua. They probably have about 40 or 50 members that have been indicted in this little town of Aurora, which is very convenient for them. It's kind of like the way the mafia used Cicero, Illinois, outside of Chicago. They don't have the police resources to deal with it. And then when it first came up, they were complaining like hell, and then they got scared, and now, they're saying, well, it isn't as bad as people say. At the same time, there's crime after crime after crime. Now you go to Springfield, and they are saying, oh, the allegations about the Haitians eating the dogs and cats are not true. Now, there were allegations. They're saying they're not true. However, they are a city that could be regarded as a possible vehicular homicidal hub. The Haitians that came there were all given a letter that allowed them to get a driver's license, whether they took a test or not. They did. And they've been playing bumper cars since then, including killing a 71-year-old grandmother and an 11-year-old kid and putting 20 kids in the hospital by banging into a bus. Now, how the hell did they get a letter saying they don't have to take a driving test? How does Mayorkas and all those idiots in Washington determine that they're, I mean, there's nothing discriminatory about requiring a driving test, right? If you're a Haitian, you can't be given a driver's test. I mean, it's quite likely you don't know how to drive if you've ever been to Haiti. Most people don't drive, and most people don't have a car in Haiti. Haiti is not Western civilization poverty. It's Asian, African poverty. It's the worst poverty in the Western Hemisphere. I call it fourth world poverty. It's like India rather than like Mexico or Colombia. I'm not saying the poverty there is bad. Isn't bad. It isn't like the poverty in, these people are living on the streets. Not all, but a good deal of them. And of course they would kill animals to eat and to live. But there's another reason they kill animals. Many, many of them practice voodoo. Even though it's a Catholic nation, even the Catholic Church has made alterations in their service to include some voodoo. Do I think that's correct? No, but I'm not the Pope. And I got a lot of problems with the Pope, who I think is, batting for a different team called, the communists. It seems very favorable to them, very much influenced by liberation theology in his home country of Argentina. He's also a first or second generation Italian Argentinian, which is a little embarrassing that he'd be this partial to, like in China. I mean, he negotiates with China over bishops. You negotiate with an atheist country over appointing bishops. But in any event, they have introduced voodoo into the Catholic service. Voodoo is very, very prevalent in Haiti. I've been there. Even had a little voodoo doll put in my room. My voodoo doll was supposedly a good luck one. My compatriot, one of them, got a one that wished death on her. Now, what do in voodoo services? They sacrifice domestic animals. They take their blood, use it as a sacrifice in their whatever their service is. It's very common and very much a part of their culture. This is what happens when you take people out of the third world, fourth world, and you put them in the middle of a civilized group of people. It's not even their fault. They don't know what to do. They practice this crazy crap that is 2,000 years old. They kill animals and take their blood. They've been doing it since they're babies. If they're hungry, they kill animals and eat them. Whether they are ducks in the pond that are owned by the city or they're your cat. In Haiti. And we take them out of Haiti and we put them in the middle of a highly civilized, structured society that took us a long time to get there. And what do you think is going to happen to them? And what do you think is going to happen to the Americans? So, how big is Springfield? 60,000 people. How many of these Haitians did they put there? 20,000. Per capita, that's considerably worse than New York City. New York City is 8 million people. Look, it's been horrible in New York City. You go talk to the people in Marine Park, and you go talk to people in the Bronx, and you go talk to a lot of people. They're frightened to go out at night because of the illegal alien criminals. But in a city of less than 60,000 people, to bring in 20,000 people who have no idea of what American civilization is, who don't know how to drive, but they're put behind a wheel of a car. They kill people. And now we got a whole political thing, trying to cover it up. They can't cover up the fact that Governor DeWine had to send the state troopers to try to quell all of the accidents and deaths on the highways. Not that he's admitting it, but he sent the state police there. This is insanity. This is insanity, and it's done because go take a look at how many are registered to vote. Now, they might not get to vote because they're not citizens, but something like 27% of the people that came in as of about 4 months ago were registered to vote. They have no right to vote. They're not citizens. And that's why they're doing it. You want a motive? You got one. They are very afraid that they're going to lose their domination and dictatorship over poor people. So they got to substitute other poor people. The Venezuelan migrants, by the way, who come straight out of prison, who are beating up New York City police officers, have all been let out and not turned over to immigration, because under New York City law, the police are not allowed to turn them over to immigration. That's per either Adams or the city council, or sounds to me like that's obstructing federal law. Maybe they should go to jail. Well, on my earlier show, so I'm sure this is now, Ted, spread all over the internet. And with Ali Reza here, I want to announce something he may not even know, but Iran has now formally endorsed Harris and Biden. Well, of course. I mean, they've been sending them stolen material from the Trump campaign for over a year now. They hacked. Every single thing I'm telling you now comes from the FBI, which is true because they hate Trump, right? They tried to frame him 2-3 times. The FBI, but how long has the FBI known this? They hacked the Trump campaign and sent the material to Biden and Harris. I don't know when it started. I don't know how much material. I know this was the false charge they made against Trump 7-8 years ago about the Russians did this. It turned out to be a 4-year, $100 million investigation covered by every newspaper in the world. Everything about it from beginning to end was false. Not just false, paid for by Hillary. She paid for the she paid for the dossier that laid out the false charges. In fact, that's how I discovered Biden's criminality, because what they were alleging about Russia actually took place in Ukraine for them. Ukraine was collaborating with them to destroy Trump. So now Iran is doing it for sure. The shoe's on the other foot. Where's all the no? The problem with Trump, there was no proof it even happened. They didn't care then whether Trump used it or not. The Trump, by the way, if, if you apply the same standard of not using it, it's a campaign finance violation. Iran has violated the American campaign finance law by providing information that's of value to an American political campaign. And they're not allowed to contribute, and you're not allowed to take it. Not use it, take it. That's what they were investigating Trump for. Now, why aren't they investigating Harris and Biden for? Why aren't they investigating Iran for? And could this be a payment to Harris and Biden for giving them so much money? I mean, Iran was, excuse the language, at the end of the Trump administration, Iran was on the balls of its ass. It had no money. What they're doing with their proxies in the Red Sea, in Israel, all over the Middle East, they couldn't have afforded to do. They couldn't afford to live. He had squeezed them so hard. Plus, there was no backdoor money going to them. He enforced the sanctions harshly and squeezed them down to a country that was impoverished and undergoing protests all over the country. Is it conceivable that if you continued that, they might have been overthrown? Yeah. You're damn right. That's how you overthrow countries. And Ali Reza is here. I'm going to put him on tomorrow. We'll get it all ready. But nobody could predict. These overthrows of governments always come about like, oh God, I never thought that could happen. But the elements were there because the protest had moved now to economic protests, not just political. I mean, that's when Russia crashed. They had no food. That tends to bring about an overthrow even faster than political. But they were also courageous enough or desperate enough to walk around with signs, overthrow the Ayatollah, get rid of the mullahs. I mean, that's a capital offense in Iran. Not even a capital offense. You just get shot for it. And they were. But they were desperate enough, so they just continued it. How many parts of Iran? 200 cities? 200 cities?
Over 282 cities in all 31 provinces.
281 cities and all 31 provinces in a period of about a year, less than a year. That's a hell of an impact. That is not going on, I can assure you, in Palestine to overthrow Hamas. There isn't any protest to overthrow Hamas because, unfortunately, they agree with Hamas. So the minute Biden came in, it all stopped. First of all, even before he had the right to do it, he loosened up all the sanctions. And then he lifted them. And then he didn't renew them when they came up. Like recently, meaning about 8 months ago, while they were attacking us, he loosened up on the sanctions. Well, I mean, you don't have to be too smart to figure out that every time you do that, that's another billions of dollars for Iran. And some of that money is going to go into giving it to the Houthis or giving it to Hezbollah in particular. That's their favorite group. Giving it to Hezbollah, giving it to Hamas. And what are the Houthis doing? The Houthis have attacked us 120 times. They've killed Americans. And we're paying for it. Well, no wonder they're working real hard to hack the Trump campaign. They're not just supporting her. They're giving her information. And the FBI is acting like, that's okay. What the heck? They don't use it. Well, I don't know what's going to happen in northern Israel and southern Lebanon, but it sure sounded like they're going to go to war, Ted. What the Israelis did in 2 days in a row, Tuesday and Wednesday, was nothing short of shocking. I didn't even know you could do that. They for the first day, right? They blew up these electronic devices, pagers, right?
Pagers, which they by the way, they switched to pagers because they were concerned about the ability of their enemies, of people being able to track them and then call in drone strikes. So the whole idea was to switch to pagers because some genius over there thought it'd be safer.
Hell with that. They say they bought them from a Taiwanese company. That's true. But the allegation is they were manufactured in Hungary.
Well, apparently Israel intercepted this. They did their research on the supply chain, right? How Hezbollah gets their.
Assad apparently put these devices in there before they got to, before they were delivered to Lebanon.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they
And at
came
the
up.
right time, blew them all up.
Yeah, all of the simultaneous detonation. I mean, it takes skill. It's something like this. They say something like this has never really been done before. A targeted attack. I don't remember the wording, but the way the attack and how precise it was. Right. This is in a way, this is a much more surgical way of taking on your enemy than even a drone strike. Right, where a lot of times there's collateral damage.
Now, I don't want you to think they did it just for the heck of it. I mean, they did it because since October 7, every single day, Hezbollah has in one way or another attacked the northern part of Israel, bombed them. And at the beginning, they were sort of like bombed them just to show support for Hamas. Now, remember, when I say Hezbollah bombed them, Iran gave them the bombs, gave them the money for it, gave them the training for it, and probably have their people there helping them do it. Because I don't know how good, I mean, if they should have put more of their people in with Hamas, because when Hamas was bombing Israel, 25% of the bombs backfired. So when you get the statistics on the people killed in Gaza, they were killing their own people by incompetently detonating the bombs. Remember the hospital that they blamed on Israel bombing? Israel said, we're not anywhere near that hospital. They bombed it by mistake. The calculation by our own military is that about 25% of their bombs backfire. So I'm going to say that, and Iran has never been as close to Hamas as it is to Hezbollah. So lately they've been helping Hamas the last 2 or 3 years. But I'm not sure they've trained them as well as Hezbollah. Hezbollah is apparently much better trained. So this is a heck of a shot at that concept that they trained them so well. I mean, they've just got about 3,000 of their people killed with Israel not even just pressing a little button. Because the next day Israel attacked them again. And, they're complaining that some civilians were killed. Well, I mean, civilians get killed in war. A lot of civilians were killed when we bombed Germany, right? We weren't even bombing military targets. We were bombing German cities to convince them to get the hell out of the war. I don't know. Harry S. Truman, the last time I checked, he was a Democrat, is the only person to have used a nuclear weapon twice on Japan. Entirely civilian populations in order to convince Japan to surrender so we wouldn't lose the estimates, whether true or not, are 1 million troops. I can't imagine we would have lost 1 million troops going into Japan. It seems ridiculous. But that's the number that was given to protect little Harry. The percentage of civilians that have died, even if you believe Hamas, is less than the number of civilians that we killed in Vietnam. And the number can't be correct because it's being given to you by Hamas. The number, you're getting the number from a terrorist group. Of course, they're going to lie. That's what terrorist groups do. They lie. They kill innocent people and they lie. They weren't designated a terrorist group for fun. So now we have an American congresswoman, the former bartender, AOC, who says that Israel committed a war crime by doing these two. Well, she only knew about the first attack. In the second one, now she must be going out of her mind by doing this. But it was focused right on Hezbollah. And if they had civilians next to them, that was their problem. Also, she doesn't point out the fact that Hezbollah has been attacking them every single day since October 7. And they've had to move 1 million of their people from northern Israel. And they want to move them back into northern Israel. And Hezbollah has violated the treaty by going into the neutral zone. So there's a, can I put this map up for a second? I don't know if it's going to work. All the lighting gets screwed up when we do this. But, I mean, I can explain it. There's a zone. There's a zone. It's even laid out on the map that's supposed to be a demilitarized zone between Lebanon and Israel. That zone is filled now with Hezbollah. Again, completely funded by Iran. And what the objective the objective of this mission, we get this out here. Should we take a little break? Why don't we take a little break so we give Ted a little break? But Ted needs a break, right? Don't you think? Ted's been really working. He's been very quiet tonight. He must have something really big to say.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you and on America's Mayor Live. And what we were describing is the area of dispute in Israel. Okay, but I mean, let's put it up there. Oh,
You gotta pick a side.
okay. Oh, then I'll pick this side so they can see it. I couldn't see it. So I want to show you where it is. You see all this up here?
Yeah, I'll zoom in.
This is here. It says northern. There's Tiberias. There's Jesus' hometown, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Tiberias, you remember that in the Bible, right? Here's the famous city of Haifa, which used to be a city of real cooperation. So what I'll do is I'll use the map and I will circle it so you can get to see it. We'll put it down here and we'll circle it. There we go. Hold it. That's right here. That's unfortunately but we're not going to be able to do that. So we'll come back to it. There we are. So if you look up at the northern part here, right up here, where it says northern, right above there is where this has taken place. That whole area that is marked out, Unifil, that's marked Unifil, that area is supposed to be demilitarized. There's not supposed to be Lebanese, Hezbollah, Israeli, and for about 5 years now, Hezbollah has been infiltrating there, and it's from there that they're bombing Israel. And that's what Israel wants to clean out. And that's the reason for what they did, which is innovative and shocking and has really made, I think, Hezbollah realize, and Iran realized that for all of the money they've spent, they may be in a very difficult situation. Now, I've told you that I believe that Iran doesn't want a full-scale engagement with Israel right now. Got to get ready for it yet. And they want to develop a nuclear capability to a much greater extent because no one knows the extent of Israel's nuclear capability. They deny being a nuclear power and nobody believes it. So they're saying they're not a nuclear power. They do things like this. They look like they're tremendously sophisticated. Who knows how big a nuclear power they are? And Iran is just emerging as a nuclear power. However, they've got the best president they're ever going to get to allow them to do whatever the hell they want. I mean, it's almost as if Iran is really the Biden administration's ally, not Israel. And Harris seems to be worse. You never see Harris criticizing the Iranian proxies. They never criticize Iran. They never do anything to retaliate when Iran's proxies kill us. So, number one, they may only have Biden for a few more months. They know Trump has a totally different attitude about them, right? He squeezed them to death, and all he does is talk about squeezing them again. I think, if anything, he probably, he was immediately coming into office. He not immediately, it took him a little while, right? It took him about a year to reject the nuclear agreement. But he progressively became more convinced that Iran was our biggest threat. He's now totally convinced they're our biggest threat. So they got to make a choice. How much do they accomplish? I think that's why they're supporting Harris. And Israel wants to push him back as much as possible. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there. Hezbollah has to do something to respond to this. At the same time, I think this is both physically deprived them of a lot of assets, number one, and number two, psychologically, it's been a hell of a blow where they felt, enormously next. I mean, what else does Israel have that they don't know about? This showed tremendous infiltration in Hezbollah, because some of it had to be executed inside Lebanon, and how they got into all of these devices before they got there is another mystery. Meanwhile, AOC is criticizing Israel for doing this and saying nothing about the people who killed Americans. Because, among other things, although they've killed lots of Israelis, these proxies have also killed many Americans. Meanwhile, what's Harris's response? Harris's response is, I am entirely supportive of the pause that we put on bombs. Well, those bombs are the bombs that would wipe out the tunnels in Gaza in which Hamas flourishes. So there is some leverage we have had and used, meaning leverage against our so-called ally, Israel. We've used no leverage against Iran. I mean, who do we favor? And she wants, she doesn't know how to describe it because she failed the bar exam. She's not very smart. But whenever she's asked, what's your position on the Middle East? And we have to have a deal. We never get beyond a deal. The only thing we get beyond a deal is we have to have a two-state solution, which means we'll have Israel, and then we'll have a terrorist state allied with Iran. And that's a solution. You know, in addition to the fact that the Ayatollah and his henchmen want to destroy Israel and have their people yelling all the time, death to Israel, they follow it up with a second chant. It's death to you. The country supposedly that Biden and Harris represent. What the hell are we doing? Releasing sanctions and giving them money and supporting them and doing nothing about the 130 attacks? Something's going on here that's very, very insidious. And she has shown herself to be, in many ways, worse than Biden. And this article in the New York Post by Adam Brodsky says that Tim Walz, who I like to call Tampon Tim, because he requires tampons in the boys' rooms in schools. One of the high schools, the sensible, common sense boys ripped the tampons out of the boys' room and told Tim where he should put them. But Tampon Tim, I think this is the best description of Brodsky's position on all of this. And Tim Walz, her running mate, is head over heels for anti-Semitic Israel hater Representative Ilhan Omar, and once praised a Muslim imam who allegedly backed Hamas. So one of her chief aides is Philip Gordon, who helped to draw up the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, and the other is Elon Goldenberger, who helped draft the sanctions that were placed on Israel. So we take sanctions off Iran and we put them on Israel. And you tell me they're acting in the best interests of the United States? I don't know. I'm really not stupid. So I will conclude with the rally last night, because it was a great rally. It's amazing. I mean, the chance that he can win New York is still very slim. You say, well, what was he doing here? It wasn't just congressional races right in the middle of where he was. Not that we should expect the press to be smart enough to figure that out. The three, if they are won by Republicans, they will keep the House. If they can win 2 out of 3, they'll probably keep the House. If they lose them, it could be tough. You're watching Fifth Avenue. This is the heart of blue America. I mean, this place is as blue as it gets. You see the reception? When Biden came about 8 months ago, Ted and I couldn't find anybody in the streets. And nobody had an American flag. It was, like these Democrats don't carry American flags. Now they probably have Palestinian flags, maybe Iranian flags. Anybody that hates America, they like. So this is him when he just took a ride along Fifth Avenue, heading out to Long Island. He's probably headed for the Queens Midtown Tunnel. Who knows New York better than me, Ted? Who gets around the traffic all the time? Yeah, I should have my own app. I'm better than what? Waves. I used to call them waves. Waves. And
someone thought they had to correct you.
Oh, there's a big debate.
By the way, I've heard you say it before. I never corrected you. The mayor says it's waves. It's waves.
Yeah, I mean, I know my.
No, think about it. I've
there are New York is very, very, people say New York traffic. The fact that it's an old city is very, very important because before they built the highways, there were many other ways to do this. And I know the other ways. I grew up. So there is the crowd at what is known as the Nassau Coliseum. That is 2 miles from where I lived in Garden City South. It is 1 mile from where I played baseball. And when they built the original Coliseum, they took my baseball field away.
Shift that.
This way?
Yeah, just a little bit.
This way? Yeah. He's making all kinds of, going like this and stuff like that. I thought he was having a little stroke or something.
Well, I don't want to. If I move the camera
Yeah,
over,
yeah,
then when I go
alright.
full shot, it shows the edge. So having you move saves
I
it.
just want to show that to you to show you that, her making fun of his crowds is like complete garbage. Look at that crowd. So I'm going to tell you exactly how many people. It holds 17,000 people. It had 17,000 people. I'm also going to tell you how many people applied for tickets in 4 days. 50,000. And as Bruce Blakeman, who is the Republican county executive there, said, if they did it outdoors at Eisenhower Park, which is right next to it, they'd have gotten 100,000. Now, it is true, although when you saw Fifth Avenue, you were looking at a very, very blue city, probably, somewhere comparable to Los Angeles or not as bad as San Francisco. God forbid, nothing is as bad as San Francisco. But there you're looking at red territory. It used to be blue. He kind of flipped it. Republicans controlled it through Ronald Reagan. They lost it with Bill Clinton. And they started getting it back with Trump's first campaign. Now they control all of Nassau County. So he's going to win there. But in the middle of all of that are 3 congressional districts. He's actually in the 2nd congressional district there. And the first congressional district, there is a very, very contested race, but probably we're going to win it. Can we put the map up, Ted? Do you have the map?
Which map?
The map of
Long Island. Yeah.
That one's gonna need some lighting. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll bring it up in.
Or do you want to?
I think. Oh yeah, I can bring it up on my screen. That way we won't. Yeah. Keep talking. Talk about it, and I'll bring it up.
So you've got on Long Island, you have 2 districts, the 1st and the 2nd. A little bit of Long Island creeps into the 3rd and the 4th, but the main districts are the 1st and the 2nd. The 2nd is roughly the northern part of Long Island. The 2nd is the southern part
There
of
it
Long
is.
Island.
There's
You
one and
see
two.
it. Okay. So now you're looking at that island. That island is 120 miles long. It contains 4 counties of New York State. 2 of them belong to New York City, Queens and Brooklyn and Queens. The 2 that you see there that are pink because that indicates they are leaning Republican, but they are not definitely Republican. Other parts of the map in New York, you'll see a red and solid blue. So that 1 and 2 is leaning Republican. 1 is represented by Nick LaLota, who's running against, believe it or not, my former speechwriter, John Avlon, who's turned into a CNN left wing. I'm not going to say anything bad about John. I love him. He's a beautiful guy. But I don't know what happened to him.
I didn't. That's right. You told me he worked for you.
He worked for me for years. He was my speechwriter.
Who's he running again? He's not. He's running against an incumbent, right?
He's running against Nick, and Nick is beating him.
Okay.
And Nick will beat him. John's a great guy, but I don't see John as a natural politician, and his ideas are wacky.
Yeah, you're right. He was.
Nice guy, wacky ideas. Margaret Hoover is related to President Hoover,
Yeah.
and she's not quite as.
She's got a show now, right? She's on
No,
TV.
she's great on
Took over a
TV.
firing line.
She did, and she's great on TV, but she also has, gone. Maybe they haven't read Marx enough. I don't know, but in any event, Nick is leading, and that's a district that Trump won last time against Biden. It's one that he's going to win by more this time.
Red chairs.
A lot of that crowd comes from that district, the crowd you just saw. The second district, want to put it up again, Ted? The second district, which is south of that, is where Trump was yesterday. He was in the second district, and that is represented by Andrew Garbarino, who took over that district 2 years ago. And also that's a district won by Trump by actually a little more than the first. The first district was Zeldin's district, and he won it like 3 times in a row. And I would think you could probably move that to solid red. And I think it could move 2 to solid red, particularly given what you saw yesterday with the enthusiasm of those people.
Packed Coliseum.
I would say 80% of those people, 70% came from those 2 districts, which is why he was there. Those are the 2 they absolutely have to hold on to. Now, let's go to the 2 districts where the Democrats are going to win almost for sure, and the district that's close.
This one here.
So now you go to 3 and 4. If you move the map just a bit, Ted, if you move the map just a bit.
I can move it. I can hide.
Here you go.
Yeah.
3 and 4. The third district is represented by Tom Suozzi. That's the district that Nutjob came from, whose name I never mentioned, and who we had to remove. Suozzi is a very powerful candidate because he was the congressman there. He left to run
That's
against
3. Yeah.
Andrew Cuomo. His family has been prominent in that area for 100 years, 80 years. And Suozzi, they have it leaning Democrat. Suozzi's going to win. I'm sorry to say that. I shouldn't say it. I'm supposed to be a Republican. I am, but I got to be intellectually honest. Michael LaPetrie is a terrific candidate, and I'd vote for him, but I do not believe he's going to beat Tom Suozzi. So that one we've already given it back. I mean, Suozzi's been in there for a year now. The fourth one, the New York 4, which is south of it and goes into Queens. This is one that is leaning Democrat, and this is the one I'd really like to see us win. Anthony D'Esposito is a former, fairly high-ranking New York City police officer. If you listen to him, we're going to have him on a show. A very smart guy. He is sponsoring a bill along with the next embattled Republican Congressman, Michael Lawler, to make September 11 a national holiday. As you can imagine, I support that, as do all the families who lost loved ones on September 11. And I support it even more now that people are forgetting it. And I support it even more now when our country is in more jeopardy from terrorists than we were before September 11, because we've let so many damn terrorists in the country. We've let so many terrorists in the country that the director of the FBI can't tell us even an approximation of how many, and warns us every other week that we're going to get attacked. I never remember that. I never remember being in a condition of having to be warned every 2 weeks we're going to be attacked by terrorists because we let so many in and we don't know who they are, where they are. Well, of course we don't. We never saw them coming in the first place. You've got to imagine that the terrorists came in largely undetected and paid the cartels to do that. ISIS and the Mexican cartels have been in league with each other for 20 years. This is like the relationship with China and drugs. The cartels have been in the drug business with China for 20 years. So unlike the new criminal immigrants that come in, or aliens that come in, like the people that are coming out of the prisons in Venezuela, many of whom we let in because we don't vet them. These people come in and you never see them. The border is like 1,400 miles. The more we're tied up with these huge numbers coming in, the more that can come in you never get to see. And that's where the cartels make the big money. So if they're doing business with China and China wants to get high-level operatives in, spies, they'll pay big money. If you want to bring in large amounts of fentanyl where you're going to lose a fortune if it's seized, you don't bring it over an actual border. You bring it over the unpoliced part of the border, which the cartels know better than we do. This is how they make their money. If you bring in children who are going to be sex trafficked, and America has taken the position of the biggest human trafficking country in the world, thanks to the border czar and the demented president. I mean, these things are unthinkable that we allow to happen, and they got to be reversed. They absolutely have to be reversed. So these districts in Congress, the 4 that I showed you, are critical, and we've already given one back. So we got to win 2 for sure. And Esposito, somehow we have to bring him in. Now, if we show you New York, the map of New York, I'll show you the other 2 important districts. One you can hardly see. Lift it up so we see 17. 17 is the one in, I don't know, what color is that?
That's
A neutral color?
brown, gold,
Gold?
tan.
Tan, okay. Tan means undecided. And undecided is the 17th district. This is probably the most contested. This is Michael Lawler and Mondaire Jones. This shouldn't be contested at all. Mondaire Jones is completely out of his mind. Completely out of his mind. This guy has supported I don't even have to repeat him, every wacky thing that she's been for. Transgender surgery for illegal aliens, paying illegal aliens money when they come into America, not checking their back, making them all citizens, defunding the police, maybe even funding the criminals. I don't know. He's wacky. He's completely wacky. And he's running against a guy who's been in Congress for 2 years, a very responsible guy, doing a great job. And right now it's dead even. It is a district that Biden won by 10% 4 years ago. It's a district that Trump is either going to win or run really close in this time. And I have to believe that Lawler is going to win because Mondaire Jones is a terrible candidate. Some of these Democratic candidates are good. This guy is a complete. You remember the guy who pulled down the alarm?
Yeah.
The crazy man who pulled down the alarm?
Yeah.
He's like that.
Bowman.
Yeah, he's like that.
So this is
he's one of those characters. He could be another. He could probably go to Congress and start pulling down fire levers and stuff like that. He won't know how to do legislation.
So this is just north of New York City. Kind of includes,
and it's an area where a lot of policemen and firemen live. So you would think there'd be a lot of support for Lawler.
Chappaqua.
Yeah, I don't see it as being terribly Democrat. I don't understand how Biden won it by 10%.
It appears West Point either is in it or is in the district over.
West Point's the final district that is really the final district that is really in dispute is the big 18th. And that one is a shame. The Democrat Pat Ryan is leading Allison Esposito. Allison Esposito is another high-ranking New York City police officer. She ran for lieutenant governor with Zeldin. They ran the best race for governor in 20 years. She's extraordinarily talented. And Ryan is a typical, Ryan voted with Biden-Harris 98% of the time. It's just a functionary of the Socialist Democrat Party.
So 18 of you viewers can see here is just to the left.
Right. It's the blue. It's the blue
one there.
One in between the 2 brown ones, or the light, whatever that color.
Yeah,
that
and
is.
West Point is an 18.
And then the one above it, the 19th, is also in dispute. There's a Republican incumbent, but one term, Marcus Molinaro and Josh Riley. Now that district, Biden won by only 4.5%. Trump's going to win that. So I think Molinaro is going to win it too. He's also been a very active congressman.
What?
So we'll have to see.
Woodstock. Fun fact: Woodstock is in CD 19.
Yeah, but that was Woodstock. Doesn't people in Woodstock
Are the opposite?
Would not
Yeah.
be drug-infested hippies.
Where were you during Woodstock, Mayor?
I was probably putting drug dealers in jail. And those people have now all ended up having no brains left because they took so much drug.
What was that?
Why
69?
do you think the Democrats have so much support?
Yeah, and then Ithaca, of course, Ithaca.
It has now
Cornell.
it has now been determined that marijuana is much more dangerous for you than we ever thought. It deteriorates the brain. It also produces serious psychological illnesses like depression.
It's interesting. DeSantis.
The idea that it's as dangerous as alcohol is ridiculous. I mean, alcohol is dangerous. I'm not proposing
Yeah.
that people go around and drink a lot of alcohol. And you better not get behind the wheel of a car, or I'll beat the shit out of you. Okay? I am
My dad. That's what my dad.
totally
Yeah,
intolerant of drunk driving
my dad was too.
because it's a thing you
Yes,
can
it is.
avoid. You can avoid hurting people by being a drunk driver. Oh, somebody should have told Tampon Tim that when he was a teacher.
Well, 40 miles over.
Yeah, and how about he blew the test by what 3-1? This, he's introduced as the teacher of the year. Yeah, he was driving around town, endangering all the kids in town by being drunk as hell. Also, the main thing about Tampon Tim, please remember it, because the liberal media will never tell you. He went to China 30 times to teach under the auspices of the Red Chinese government. He brought American children with him. What the hell do you think he was teaching in Red China? You think you get to teach in Red China what you want? If he was teaching what he wanted, he wouldn't be here. He'd be either in a prison with the Uyghur people, or he'd have his head chopped off. And his wife would too. He was teaching what the Red Chinese wanted him to teach, and he was bringing over the kids to groom them. He's one of innumerable numbers of teachers who are part of the Marxist plot to turn our educational system. You can go read about it if you want. Go read about it in the 30s and the 40s, and they infiltrated the communist organized teachers union. It was organized by the Communist Party.
Right here in New York.
Right here in communist New York, like communist Los Angeles. Heavily communist in the 30s.
Who was running the teachers unions in New York when you were mayor?
The communist who's running the national union now, Randy Weingart.
That's the biggest name in.
You know what I gave her? Nothing. I never did a contract with her, basically, because she would not concede that I could evaluate the teachers. I had to pay the teachers all the same, whether they were the best teacher or perverts.
She
Spend a lot of money protecting perverts. I mean, it's harder to get a teacher fired than it is to get them prosecuted. So when I became mayor, I really shook them up because I started prosecuting them. Yet we have something in New York called the rubber room. The rubber room is an accumulation of about 2,000 or 3,000 teachers who have been suspended because you can't let them near kids. And not all sexual perverts. They also beat the kids too. And we have to pay them because the union says they have to go through some kind of a process of about 3 or 4 years of proving it. So I was a prosecutor when I became mayor, and I said, and all the local prosecutors were colleagues of mine, and I said, why don't you just prosecute them? And they did, and they go to jail. And I would have to send them checks in Sing Sing because we hadn't gotten rid of them as teachers. They were still teachers, and they were in the state prison. And we'd have to send them a salary check in the state prison. That's what happens when you are a democratic dictatorship like New York, and you have 170 years of a crooked political party running you. But that's the key to it. So let's show, as we conclude, one of the most heartwarming things that I've seen in a very long time. And it's with my friend, Donald Trump. And I'm going to tell you a very funny story about it that I'll include Rob and Ted in, because Rob in particular, Rob almost got destroyed yesterday if he had done this, if he had listened to me. With serious brain injury. And Donald Trump heard about this some time ago and sent him a birthday present. And Liam did a tweet or something on it, and it went viral. Got 3 million people watch it. So President Trump realized he's going to invited him and brought him this present. I want you to look at that box very carefully. It's a beautiful box.
Okay? Real good stuff. Okay? So beautiful. Thank you. See, look at that. It was great for talking. Look at that picture of life. Okay? Is she going to come out and watch me?
Of course.
Because I left the stage in order to come and say hello.
Is it no special anymore?
Okay? So beautiful. So you take care of mom and dad? There's like your sister, right?
This here has a lot of gray hair.
So that room in that box, we were in maybe 15 minutes before that, and we set up what I have here. We set up a studio. We even had a television in back of us. And we're going to use that box because we thought it was a prop. We're going to put it like in back, Trump. So then we found out the president needed the room. So we moved out of that room to another room that was a locker room, I guess, for the Islanders or something. It was also fun because we were in a locker room.
They won 4 Stanley Cups in that locker room,
But
Mayor.
we didn't have any Trump stuff. So I told Rob to go back and get the box.
That box.
Now think about this. We're going to use it as an ornament. Suppose we had taken little Liam's box. Would have been in it. I know what Trump would have done. He said, you know, Liam, I got a present for you. Miniature Andy's space.
And he's sitting in the back of our store. But the evidence would be right there. You didn't take it. Yeah, probably best we didn't send Rob in there. Because Carolyn in the room.
Wait a second. You could have taken anything.
So yeah, what a special moment. And again, I want to show the original, but I want to make a point, and I'm not going to out the names. I've got to know a lot of these photojournalists. A lot of the biggest photojournalists in politics were invited into that room. I saw them. They're standing outside. Here's the thing: none of them covered the damn story.
Well,
None of
make
them
him
covered
human?
the story. I know these guys.
People will stop wanting to kill him if you make him human.
You know,
Let's call him Hitler.
yeah.
Let's say he wants to destroy democracy. I'll use a Democrat term. All dog whistles like to kill him. People believe, there are a lot of people who believe that it would have been better to kill Hitler in 1928, 29, 30, 31, 32, the better of evils, right? Because he would have saved 12 million people. You start saying Hitler, that a guy is Hitler, not so crazy people are going to think maybe you want him killed.
Or a threat to democracy.
Threat to democracy, my goodness. I mean,
or they throw an existential, right? I mean, what the hell? Existential threat. What do you think people?
and
What
they
do you
don't
expect?
show anything decent about him, make him out like he's some kind of a demon. I mean, I'm going to tell you, this man has been doing that for 30 years. He was doing it when I was the mayor. He was doing it before I was the mayor, because he would call sometimes my office to get help. He'd read about somebody that needed help, and he'd want to help, and he would do it anonymously. And he would do it sometimes with his big pal, George Steinbrenner. They do it together. And I actually got to know Donald Trump because I was very friendly with George Steinbrenner. I can't tell you how many times he did things like that before he was president and after he was president. And right now, I mean, he sometimes people don't even, he reads it in the paper. He's firefighter killed in Idaho. He'll send something there. Little boy dying of cancer. He'll send something. And that's basically what happened here. A young man has a brain problem, and he sent him a birthday greeting. And the mother, on her own, made up a little, I guess it was a tweet, whatever they call it now, an X, and it got 3 million views. And the ex-president decided to they live right near there, and decided to invite him, and then brought him another present. I don't know what's in there. I would imagine it's banners or books or.
So we'll play. This is the original video that caught President Trump's.
I mean, I almost stole it, but I don't know what's in it.
So here's the video.
Still don't know, right?
Can you read it out loud? Sure. It says, "Dear Liam, happy 8th birthday. Mrs. Trump and I hope you enjoy this special occasion surrounded by the love of your family and friends. We are so encouraged by the strength and determination you have shown throughout your young life and send our love and best wishes to you as you continue to fight. Remember, you are never alone, and we are keeping you in our thoughts and prayers for continued care and good health. May God bless you and your family. Stay strong. Sincerely." Can you tell me who signed that? He knew it was your birthday coming up? What do you say to him?
Thank you. I love you.
What else do you say?
Thank you.
That's why he's my friend. And that's why I went yesterday. I went all the way. I came all the way up from Florida. Didn't plan to, and to be there for him. And because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of what they're doing to him. And I'm frightened for him. This is twice now they tried to kill him. You think I think this is coincidental? I wouldn't be the prosecutor I was if I thought it was coincidental, or at least just assume that. I always assume the worst. You assume the worst, and maybe it isn't the worst, and fine. But as a prosecutor or investigator, you got to assume the worst. So now we've got the FBI that tried to frame him a couple of times. The election in 2016, they tried to frame him for what they knew was untrue after 3 months, Russian collusion. They went on with that for 4 years. They tried to dislodge him as the lawfully elected president on false testimony. The FBI did. Second election, they had the hard drive for 8 months. They had validated it. They knew it was true. They let the media cover it up, and the biggest cover up in American electoral history, rendering the election a fraud before you even got to counting the votes. And then they let him be impeached when it could have cleared him. That's the same FBI that's now tasked with determining whether this is part of a plot to kill him or just two accidental situations. Now, I don't know if it's accidental or not. I do know that the first one, I can't find anything right that the Secret Service did. Now it comes out, as I think we pointed out earlier, that we got to figure out who's telling the truth, the Philadelphia or Pennsylvania police or the Secret Service. The Secret Service, the head of the Secret Service testified that the locals took responsibility for policing the top of that roof. Every single local official, including the district attorney in Butler County, says just the opposite. On July 11, the Secret Service took responsibility for it. And when they weren't doing it, the local police even complained and nothing was done about it, which is consistent with the fact that the local police warned them of a threat. They never did anything about the threat, and they let the thing go forward. Then when they pulled him up, first thing they pulled up was his head. That's exactly what you're not supposed to do. Now, this comes from somebody who arrested Hinckley, me. It also comes from somebody who wrote the report about what was wrong with Hinckley, the Secret Service reaction to it, which was a heck of a lot better than this. And somebody who spent 8 years protecting Bill Clinton and Bush II when they were presidents and came to New York, where you can imagine there were 1,000 threats. And I've interviewed former Secret Service agents on this in great detail. They can't find anything right done. Now, is it because these were a bunch of yo-yos that were doing this, or was it on purpose? I don't know. You don't just say 15 minutes into their investigation.
The president's been shot.
They were they were asked about the investigation. They said, we haven't had time to investigate yet. That's true. And then they were asked, well, is there any sign of is there any evidence of a conspiracy or other people involved? Absolutely not. No, no. Well, they wouldn't have known that at that point. How do you know 1 hour into the investigation that it's not they're not going to complete the damn thing until December? That's also suspicious. That's after the election. You see the way he's exposed? His head is exposed. Before that, they brought it up and put it out there like that. Like, here's the head to shoot. Every one of those agents should have been suspended that day. They should never guard another presidential candidate. You know what they're doing? A couple of them are about 4'5". They were down on his knees. Where did they find these people? So, Ron DeSantis has now said that Florida should investigate the attempted murder in Florida. Now, that makes all the sense in the world because the federal government can only prosecute for possession of a gun. Murder or attempted murder of a presidential candidate is not a federal crime. However, it is a crime in the state of Florida because you're a person. By the way, the penalty is life in prison. The penalty for the other is 10 years. Having been in law enforcement for 17 years, I can tell you, you always make the choice in favor of the place with the heavier penalty.
They're prosecuting him in Southern Florida. That's on appeal to the 11th Circuit. They're also prosecuting in the District of Columbia for the January 6th stuff.
I don't
So
trust
these
the
are
director
two.
of the FBI to cross the street properly. And where it comes to Trump, he's already presided over framing him, covering up the hard drive, lying, withholding evidence constantly. And they're withholding evidence about this. You just heard a Democratic senator complain, Blumenthal, that he's very upset that they won't respond to the Senate's request for information. Why the hell don't you think they want to respond? Because there's nothing good to respond with. When people have good things to respond with, they give it to you right away. When they don't, they're trying to delay until after the election, like they did with the hard drive. Because there are a lot of criminals in the Harris-Biden administration, including Biden, who's the biggest one of all. So I am very worried it's going to happen again. I have no idea if this is connected or not, but I sure as hell I'm not going to assume it isn't. You protect somebody, you assume the worst. Used to be in this business for 22 years. I would never have left that unguarded. All you have to do is take a cursory look and you can see the areas that somebody can look in there. That's not most of the place. So
I just have to chime in, Mayor, because I've gone with you. I'm not a golfer, but when we go to these courses, we'll drive around the golf course. You'll give me a tour. I know for a fact if we were, and we'll be down there soon, but if we were out there on that course in your cart, and then one of the carts, one of us would have said something. If I'm going across and seeing an opening in the fence.
DeSantis played golf with him 2 weeks ago there and said that he noted it when he played golf there.
He said he noted it?
No, he
in his head.
No, it's obvious. When did I tell you the holes it happened on? The moment it was described. I got out a map of the golf course and I showed you exactly.
You did. You point. Oh my goodness, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew exactly. It was the only place you could do it. The only other place you could have done it is in back, which is the road that connects to a prison. And maybe I thought possibly a prisoner did it because a prisoner could have spent a lot of time looking down at the golf course. But this area is right on a main thoroughfare. Also, the guy was there for 12 and a half hours. If you look now, you can see where he could see through there. There aren't too many places surrounding that golf course where there's a line of sight like that. Second, he was there for 12 and a half hours with his van or his car. There's no parking on Summit Avenue. No parking. You can't park on it. It's a semi-highway thoroughfare, and cars move very fast on it. If you were parked there and they did any kind of perimeter security, the car would stand out like a sore thumb. Which is why the woman who took the picture did, because it stood out like a sore thumb. So, okay. Anything else we need to cover?
Well, a whirlwind week, Mayor. We've been all over. But we've done the show. We've kept the show up. We haven't missed a beat. You haven't missed a beat.
Well, we'll be on tomorrow night. It'll be a 500 show.
That's right.
And we will do an analysis of the election and tell you where the electoral count stands right now, as best we can tell from all the polls.
So that's this will wrap up our 100th tomorrow, our 100th straight week of doing this. We haven't missed a day. Admittedly, we've had to do a few episodes taped to live just by a few hours.
Yep.
Just by a few hours. So it's not live, but you could argue it's delayed somewhere in between. And we haven't missed a beat. So we want to thank everyone that's been with us. A lot of you from day one. You've been with us for all the changes, all the upgrades. And boy, we're just getting started. But these next 46 days are going to be huge. Very critical. So
going to make the difference in whether we restore America. We keep going in the direction of becoming another Red China, Venezuela, Russia, which is where we're going right now.
I fear we're already further along than some want to even admit, right? Like, I see the lawfare. I see some. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We can keep going, right, Mayor?
So we're going to ask everyone to pray for the people of Israel and to pray for the people of Ukraine, huh? They're both at war. Those wars didn't exist when Trump handed this country over to Biden and Harris. They exist big time now, and either one of them could break out into a world war if we're not careful and we're not prudent and we're not tough. God bless America. Predecessor. Just about my only Republican.
Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply